The alien queen had a heart attack. No one knew why until a human healer needed a human to cure. Hertha alarm bells rang through the medical station like thunder in space. Red lights flashed in every hallway, and the sound made Dr. Elena Vasquez drop her coffee cup. The hot liquid splashed across her research papers, but she did not care. Those alarm bells only rang for one reason. Someone very important was dying. Elena ran down the long metal hallway. Her footsteps echoed off the walls as she hurried toward the main medical center. Other doctors and nurses were running too. All of them looked scared and confused. Elena had been working on the space station for 6 months. She had never seen everyone so worried. The medical center doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was full of activity. Alien doctors moved quickly around a large crystal chamber in the center of the room. The chamber was filled with blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat, but something was wrong with the rhythm. The light flickered and jumped in ways that made Elena feel sick to watch. "What happened?" Elena asked Dr. Kethmori, the tall alien, who ran the medical center. His blue skin was darker than usual, which meant he was very stressed. "Queen Zerthala," Dr. Kethmori said without looking away from the crystal chamber. "Her heart stopped working properly 30 minutes ago. We don't know why." Lena felt her own heart skip a beat. Queen Zerthala was the ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. She controlled 12 different star systems and billions of people. More importantly, she was the only reason humans and Zephyrians had peace between their worlds. If the queen died, the peace treaty would die with her. Elena moved closer to the crystal chamber. Inside, she could see the queen lying still on a silver bed. Queen Zerthala was beautiful in the way all Zephyrians were beautiful. Her skin was pale blue like morning sky, and her long silver hair floated around her head like she was underwater. But her face was too still, too peaceful. She looked like she was already dead. Her heart has 3 chambers, Dr. Kethmori explained to Elena. All 3 stopped beating at the same time. "We have never seen anything like this before." Around the chamber, 5 other Zephyrian doctors worked with strange machines that hummed and beeped. The machines sent healing energy into the queen's body, but nothing seemed to help. Lena watched the numbers on the screens, even though she could not read all the Zephyrian words. She understood that the numbers were getting worse. "What about her brain activity?" Lena asked. Dr. Kethmori pointed to another screen. "Her mind is still active, but it's strange. Look at these patterns." Elena studied the brain scan. The patterns looked like waves during a storm, wild and chaotic. In human medicine, brain patterns like this usually meant the person was in great emotional pain. But Zephyrians were not supposed to feel emotions the way humans did. "Have you tried the standard healing frequencies?" Lena asked. "Of course," Dr. Kethmori said. His voice sounded tired and frustrated. "We tried everything in our medical books. Nothing works. Her body is not responding to any treatment." Lena walked around the crystal chamber, looking at the queen from different angles. She had spent months studying Zephyrian biology, but this was her first time seeing a real medical emergency. The queen's 3 hearts should have been easy to fix. Zephyrian medicine was much more advanced than human medicine in most ways. Dr. Vasquez called Dr. Yenthara a female Zephyrian with golden eyes. "Can you think of anything from human medicine that might help?" Elena shook her head slowly. "Human hearts only have 4 chambers total, not 3 chambers each. Our biology is very different." But even as she said it, Elena felt like she was missing something important. The brain patterns bothered her. They reminded her of something she had seen before, but she could not remember what. More doctors arrived in the medical center. Lena recognized some of them as the most famous healers in the Zephyrian Empire. They had traveled from other star systems to help save their queen. But after 2 hours of work, none of them had any new ideas. "Her condition is getting worse," Dr. Kethmori announced. "The electrical activity in her brain is increasing, but her hearts are getting weaker." Lena watched the queen's peaceful face and tried to think. Why would someone's heart just stop? Working in humans, it usually happened because of disease, injury, or extreme stress. But the queen was young and healthy. She had no injuries. And Zephyrians were not supposed to feel stress the way humans did. Dr. Kethmori Elena said carefully, "Has the queen been acting differently lately? Any changes in her behavior?" The tall alien doctor looked confused. Why would that matter? This is a medical problem, not a psychological one. Sometimes the mind and body are connected, Alina explained. In human medicine, we know that strong emotions can affect the heart. Dr. Kethmori made a sound that might have been a laugh. Dr. Vasquez, with respect, Zephyrians do not have emotions like humans do. We are a logical species. Our hearts do not stop because of feelings. But Alina noticed something in the way he said it. Dr. Kethmori looked uncomfortable, like he was not telling her everything. She decided not to push the subject right now. The next few hours passed slowly. Alina stayed in the medical center, watching the doctors work. She felt useless. Her knowledge of human medicine was not helping save an alien queen. Other doctors were polite to her, but she could see they thought she was wasting space. As the station's day cycle moved toward evening, Dr. Kethmori approached Alina again. This time, he looked desperate. Dr. Vasquez, he said quietly, we are running out of options. The queen's condition is critical. If we cannot find a solution soon, she will die. Alina looked around the medical center. The greatest healers in the galaxy were here, and none of them could save one Zephyrian woman. It seemed impossible. What happens if she dies? Alina asked, though she already knew the answer. Dr. Kethmori's skin turned an even darker shade of blue. War, he said simply. The peace treaty between our peoples was her idea. Many Zephyrians still do not trust humans. If she dies, they will blame your people. The peace will end. Alina felt cold, despite the warm air in the medical center. Billions of lives depended on keeping this one woman alive. Right now, no one in the galaxy knew how to do it. I need to examine her myself, Alina said suddenly. Dr. Kethmori stared at her. What? I need to look at her with my own eyes, not just through your machines. Maybe I can see something you missed. That is impossible. You are not trained in Zephyrian medicine. You could make her condition worse. Alina met his golden eyes steadily. Dr. Kethmori, your methods are not working. What do you have to lose? Dr. Kethmori stared at Alina for a long moment. Around them, the medical machines continued their steady beeping, marking each weak heartbeat of the dying queen. Finally, he nodded slowly. Very well, Dr. Vasquez. You may examine her. But you must be very careful. Any mistake could kill her faster. Alina felt her hands shake slightly as she approached the crystal chamber. This was the most important moment of her career, maybe of her entire life. She had studied Zephyrian biology for months, but she had never touched a living Zephyrian before. The crystal chamber opened with a soft sound like wind chimes. The blue healing light dimmed, and Alina could see Queen Zerthala clearly for the first time. The queen was smaller than Alina had expected, about the same height as a human woman. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow slightly from within. Her silver hair was soft and moved gently, as if she was underwater. Alina placed her hands on the queen's chest, just above where her 3 hearts should be. The queen's skin was warm, warmer than human skin. Alina could feel the hearts beating, but the rhythm was all wrong. It was like listening to 3 different drummers who could not agree on the same song. Our hearts are not working together, Alina said. In humans, this would be called arrhythmia. But why would all 3 hearts develop the same problem at the same time? Alina moved her hands too. The queen's neck and wrists, checking for pulse points. The blood flow was weak and irregular, but something else caught her attention. Under her fingers, Alina could feel a strange vibration in the queen's nervous system. It was like a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Dr. Kethmori, what is this vibration? Is this normal for Zephyrians? The tall alien doctor leaned closer. What vibration? I do not feel anything unusual. Alina frowned. Maybe human hands were more sensitive than Zephyrian hands. Fingers along the queen's temples and forehead. The vibration was stronger here, right behind the queen's closed eyes. Can you show me a scan of her brain activity again? Alina asked. Dr. Kethmori activated a holographic display above the crystal chamber. Alina studied the swirling patterns of the queen's brain waves. They reminded her of something she had seen in medical school, but she could not remember what. These patterns, Alina said slowly. They look like human brain patterns during extreme emotional stress. But that's impossible, right? Said Zephyrians don't have emotions like humans. Dr. Kethmori's skin color changed slightly. That is correct. We are a logical species. But Alina heard something in his voice. He sounded uncomfortable, like he was not telling her the complete truth. Dr. Kethmori, I need you to be honest with me. Has Queen Zerthala been studying human culture recently? The alien doctor looked around the room nervously. The other doctors were busy with their work, but Alina could see that some of them were listening. Why would you ask such a question? Dr. Kethmori said quietly, because her brain patterns look exactly like a human who is suffering from severe emotional pain. Grief specifically. The kind of grief that happens when someone loses a person they care about deeply. Dr. Kethmori was quiet for a long time. Finally, he gestured for Alina to follow him to a corner of the room where they could speak privately. What I am about to tell you must remain secret, he said in a whisper. 3 months ago, Queen Zerthala began studying human customs and behavior. She said it was for diplomatic purposes to better understand your species. Alina felt her heartbeat speed up. What kind of human customs? All kinds. Language, art, history. But she seemed most interested in human relationships. Love, friendship, family bonds. Things that do not exist in Zephyrian culture. Wait, Alina said. Zephyrians don't have love or friendship. Dr. Kethmori shook his head. We have partnerships for reproduction and cooperation for survival. But what humans call love, the deep emotional connection, this is foreign to us. Or it was, until the Queen began studying it. Alina felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to fit together in her mind. Dr. Kethmori, was there a specific human the Queen was working with? Someone who taught her about these emotions? The alien doctor's skin turned almost purple. Yes, Ambassador David Chin. He came to our homeworld to help establish the peace treaty. The Queen spent many hours with him, learning about human culture. Where is Ambassador Chin now? Alina asked, though she was starting to fear the answer. He died 2 weeks ago. There was an accident during his return trip to Earth. His transport ship had a mechanical failure. Alina felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. Everything suddenly made sense. The Queen had learned to feel human emotions, specifically love. Then the person she loved had died suddenly. Now she was experiencing grief, an emotion her biology was never designed to handle. Dr. Kethmori, I think Queen Zerthala's heart is failing because she is mourning Ambassador Chen. She learned to love like a human, but her Zephyrian body doesn't know how to process that kind of emotional pain. Dr. Kethmori stared at Alina with wide golden eyes. That is impossible. Hearts do not stop working because of feelings. In humans, they absolutely can, Alina said firmly. We call it broken heart syndrome. Extreme emotional stress can cause heart failure, especially in people who aren't used to strong emotions. Alina walked back to the crystal chamber and looked at the Queen's peaceful face again. Now, she understood why the Queen looked so sad, even while unconscious. She was the first Zephyrian in history to experience human-style love, and now she was the first to experience human-style grief. Show me everything, Alina said to Dr. Kethmori. All her medical scans from the past 3 months. I need to see how her brain patterns changed as she learned about human emotions. For the next 2 hours, Alina studied every scan and test result. The evidence was clear. 3 months ago, the Queen's brain patterns had been typically Zephyrian. Logical, calm, predictable. But slowly, new neural pathways had begun forming. The Queen's brain had literally rewired itself to experience emotions she had never felt before. Look at this, Alina said, pointing to a brain scan from 2 weeks ago. Right here, you can see new connections forming in the areas that humans use for emotional processing. And here, the electrical activity increased dramatically. Was the day Ambassador Chen died? Dr. Kethmori said quietly. Alina nodded. Her brain was trying to process grief using pathways that were only 2 months old. It's like asking someone who just learned to walk to run a marathon. The emotional overload caused her nervous system to malfunction, which affected her hearts. Dr. Kethmori looked confused and frightened. But how do we fix this? Our medicine has no treatment for emotions? Alina stared at the Queen's still form. This was the most complex medical case she had ever encountered. The queen was dying from love. Something that should have been beautiful had become deadly because her biology could not handle it. "I don't know yet," Alina admitted. But I have an idea. It's crazy, and it's never been tried before, but it might be our only chance." Alina looked around the room at all the alien doctors. They were brilliant healers, but they could not understand what the queen was experiencing because they had never felt emotions themselves. "We're going to need help," Alina said. "We need someone who understands human grief and can teach the queen's body how to survive it." "What do you mean?" Dr. Kethmori asked. Alina took a deep breath. "We need another human." Alina paced back and forth in the small research room next to the medical center. She had been thinking for 3 hours and her head was starting to hurt. On the desk in front of her were dozens of brain scans, medical charts, and notes written in both human and Zephyrian languages. Dr. Kethmori sat across from her, watching quietly. He had never seen a human think so intensely before. Alina's face showed a dozen different emotions as she worked through the problem in her mind. "Explain to me again why we need another human," Dr. Kethmori said. "Cannot you help the queen yourself?" Alina stopped pacing and looked at him. "The queen's brain has learned to process emotions like a human brain, but her body doesn't know how to handle those emotions safely. When humans feel extreme grief, our bodies have natural ways to cope. We cry, we sleep more, we lose appetite. These responses help us survive the emotional pain. But Zephyrians do not have these responses," Dr. Kethmori said. "Exactly. The queen's mind is trying to feel human emotions with a Zephyrian body. It's like trying to run human software on alien hardware. The system is crashing." Alina picked up a brain scan showing the queen's neural activity. "Look at these patterns. Her emotional centers are firing constantly, but there's no release mechanism. The emotional energy has nowhere to go, so it's attacking her cardiovascular system." Dr. Kethmori studied the scan. "So what is your solution?" Alina took a deep breath. This was the part that sounded crazy even to her. "I think we need to create a temporary connection between the queen's mind and a human mind. The human would serve as a guide, showing the queen's brain how to process grief without destroying her body. A connection between minds." Skin turned pale blue. "That is impossible. Human and Zephyrian brains are completely different." "Not completely different," Alina said. "The queen already proved that by learning to feel human emotions. Brain created new pathways that mirror human emotional processing. I think we can use those pathways to establish a limited connection." Alina walked to the computer terminal and began pulling up technical diagrams. "Your people have neural interface technology for medical procedures. If I modify the interface using human brain patterns, I might be able to create a bridge between the queen's consciousness and a human volunteer." Dr. Kethmori stood up quickly. "Lena, this is extremely dangerous. Connecting to different types of consciousness could kill both individuals." "I know," Alina said quietly. "But the queen is dying anyway. If we do nothing, she'll be dead. Within 12 hours, this might be our only chance." For the next hour, Alina explained her plan in detail. The neural interface would need to be carefully calibrated to handle both human and Zephyrian brain patterns. The human volunteer would remain conscious during the connection, serving as an emotional guide for the queen's overwhelmed mind. Human would essentially teach the queen's brain how to grieve safely, Alina explained. How to feel the pain without letting it destroy her physically. Dr. Kethmori looked worried. "What are the risks to the human volunteer?" Alina hesitated. This was the part she didn't want to think about. The queen's consciousness is much more powerful than a human mind. If the connection is too strong, the volunteer could suffer permanent psychological damage. In the worst case, their mind could be completely overwhelmed. "You mean they could die?" "Yes," Alina admitted. "They could die." Dr. Kethmori was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Even if this plan could work, who would volunteer for such a dangerous procedure?" Alina had been thinking about this. Question for hours. The volunteer needs very specific qualifications. They need to have experience with deep grief, but they also need to be emotionally stable. Someone who has learned how to carry pain without being destroyed by it. "Do you know such a person?" Alina nodded slowly. "I think so. But first, I need to design the neural interface." We'll need at least 6 hours to build and test it. Alina and Dr. Kethmori returned to the medical center, where the Queen's condition had grown worse. Her 3 hearts were now beating so irregularly that the medical machines could barely track the rhythm. The other doctors looked at Alina with desperate hope. "We have a plan," Alina announced. "But it's risky, and we'll need to work quickly." Alina spent the next 4 hours designing the most complex medical device she had ever imagined.
Ow.
The neural interface needed to translate human emotional patterns into something a Zephyrian brain could understand, while protecting both minds from damage. Dr. Yenthara helped Alina with the technical specifications. "This design is incredible," she said as they worked. "You are essentially creating a new language that both species can speak." "That's exactly what we're doing," Alina replied, adjusting the neural pattern calibrations. "The Queen learned to feel like a human, but she never learned how to survive those feelings. We need to teach her." As they worked, Alina sent a message to Earth requesting a specific type of volunteer. She needed someone with professional experience helping people process grief, someone who had dedicated their life to understanding emotional pain. "The interface is almost ready," Dr. Kethmori said, checking the final connections. "I must ask, are you planning to be the volunteer yourself?" Alina looked up from her work. The thought had crossed her mind many times. She understood the Queen's condition better than anyone. She had the medical knowledge to monitor the procedure. But she also knew it would be a mistake. "No," she said. "I'm too emotionally involved in this case. The Queen needs someone who can remain calm and centered while sharing their emotional processing abilities. My mind is too chaotic right now." Dr. Kethmori looked relieved. "Then who?" Alina checked her messages. A response from Earth had arrived. "Someone perfect," she said with a small smile. "A grief counselor named Marcus Chen. He's the brother of Ambassador David Chen." Dr. Kethmori's eyes widened. "The brother of the man the Queen loved." "Yes. Marcus helped his brother David overcome trauma years ago. He understands the specific emotional patterns that led to the Queen's condition. More importantly, he volunteered immediately when he learned what happened." Alina looked at the neural interface, now complete and ready for testing. It looked like a crown made of silver threads and glowing crystals. When placed on 2 heads simultaneously, it would create a bridge between minds that had never been connected before. "Marcus is traveling here on the fastest ship available," Alina continued. "He'll arrive in 4 hours. That gives us time to run final tests on the interface." Dr. Kethmori checked the Queen's vital signs. "Will she survive? For more hours?" Alina looked at the Queen's peaceful face. Even unconscious, the Queen looked like she was in pain. Her silver hair had lost some of its shine, and her blue skin was becoming pale. "I don't know," Alina admitted, "but I do know this. If Marcus can help her learn to carry grief the way humans do, it might save her life." Alina began the final preparations for the most dangerous medical procedure in galactic history. In a few hours, they would attempt to connect to minds from different species, hoping that love and loss, the most human of experiences, could somehow be shared across the stars. Dr. Kethmori, Alina said as she calibrated the final settings, "I need you to understand something. If this works, it won't just save the Queen's life. It will change how our species understand consciousness itself." The alien doctor nodded solemnly. "And if it fails?" Alina didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, "If it fails, we'll lose the Queen, Marcus, and probably any chance of peace between our worlds." The weight of billions of lives hung in the air around them as they waited for Marcus Chen to arrive. The transport ship arrived exactly 4 hours later. Alina stood at the docking bay window, watching the small vessel attached to the medical station. Her hands were shaking slightly. Everything depended on the man inside that ship. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Marcus Chen stepped out. He was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. Alina could see the family resemblance immediately. He had the same gentle smile as brother David had shown in photographs. "Dr. Vasquez?" Marcus asked, walking toward her. His voice was calm and steady, despite having traveled across the galaxy in record time. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Chen," Alina said, shaking his hand. "I know this must be incredibly difficult for you." Marcus nodded slowly. David would have wanted me to help. He believed that understanding between species was the most important work anyone could do. Alina led Marcus through the station corridors toward the medical center. As they walked, she explained the Queen's condition in detail. Marcus listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions about the neural interface and the risks involved. "So the Queen learned to love my brother, but her biology couldn't handle losing him," Marcus said. "And now you need me to teach her mind. How to survive grief." "That's exactly right," Alina confirmed. "But Marcus, I need you to understand how dangerous this is. The Queen's consciousness is incredibly powerful. When we create the neural link, her mind could overwhelm yours completely." Marcus stopped walking and looked at Alina seriously. "What exactly would happen to me if that occurred?" Alina took a deep breath. "In the best case, you would suffer permanent memory loss and personality changes. In the worst case, your consciousness could be completely erased. You would die, but your body would remain alive." They continued walking in silence for a moment. Finally, Marcus spoke again. "Dr. Vasquez, have you ever lost someone you loved deeply?" "Yes," Alina said quietly. "My father died when I was in medical school." "Then you understand that some pain is worth carrying," Marcus said. "David died trying to build peace between our species. If I can help finish his work by saving the Queen, then the risk is acceptable to me." They entered the medical center, where Dr. Kethmori and the other alien doctors were making final preparations. The neural interface sat on a table nearby, looking like a crown made of starlight and silver threads. Marcus approached the crystal chamber where Queen Zerthala lay unconscious. He studied her peaceful face for a long time. "She's beautiful," he said softly. "I can see why David cared for her." Dr. Kethmori joined them at the chamber. "Mr. Chen, we are honored by your courage. But I must ask, are you certain you want to proceed? We cannot guarantee your safety." Marcus smiled. "Doctor, I have spent 15 years helping people process the worst pain imaginable. I have sat with parents who lost children, with soldiers who survived wars, with people who thought grief would destroy them. I learned long ago that the only way through pain is straight through it." Alina began explaining the technical aspects of the procedure. "The neural interface will create a bridge between your consciousness and the Queen's. You'll need to maintain your own identity while sharing your emotional processing abilities with her." "Long will the connection last?" Marcus asked. "Probably about 30 minutes, Alina said. "Long enough for you to guide her through the initial grief processing, but not so long that your mind becomes permanently altered." Dr. Yenthera approached with a series of brain monitoring devices. "Mr. Chen, we need to map your neural patterns before the procedure. This will help us calibrate the interface properly." For the next 2 hours, Marcus underwent extensive brain scans and psychological evaluations. The alien doctors were amazed by the complexity of human emotional processing. Marcus's brain showed years of practice in handling deep grief while maintaining emotional stability. "Your neural pathways are remarkable," Dr. Kethmori observed. "You have learned to carry pain without being destroyed by it." "Grief counselors do," Marcus explained. "We learn to feel deeply while staying grounded. It's like being a lighthouse in a storm. You acknowledge the darkness, but keep shining steadily." Alina used Marcus's brain patterns to make final adjustments to the neural interface. The device needed to translate his emotional responses into something the Queen's altered brain could understand and mimic. Marcus, Alina said as she worked during the procedure, "You'll experience the Queen's memories of David. You'll feel her love for him and her pain at losing him. Are you prepared for that?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I think it might help me understand my brother better." David never talked much about his feelings for the Queen, but I could tell she meant something special to him. As the preparation continued, Marcus told Alina and the alien doctors about his work as a grief counselor. He explained how humans learned to process loss, how they transformed pain into memory and love into lasting connection. "The goal isn't to stop feeling pain," Marcus said. "The goal is to feel it fully and then learn to carry it without letting it destroy you. Grief is love with nowhere to go. We need to teach the Queen's mind how to redirect that love into something sustainable." Dr. Kethmori checked the queen's vital signs. Her condition was critical now. All three hearts were barely beating, and her brain activity was becoming more chaotic. "We need to begin soon," he said urgently. "She may not survive much longer." Lena made the final calibrations to the neural interface. The device hummed softly, ready to connect to minds that had never been linked before. She looked at Marcus, who was sitting calmly in a chair next to the queen's chamber. "Are you ready?" Alina asked. Marcus stood up and walked to the queen's side. He placed one hand gently on the crystal chamber. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "my brother David spoke of you often. He said you had the most curious mind he had ever encountered. I'm going to help you learn something new today: how to survive. Love." Alina carefully placed the neural interface on Marcus's head. The silver threads began to glow, and the crystals pulsed with soft blue light. A matching device was positioned above the queen's head, inside the chamber. "Marcus," Alina said, "once I activate the connection, you'll have about 30 minutes to guide the queen through the grief process. Remember, her mind is much more powerful than yours. Stay focused on your own identity, but share your emotional knowledge freely." Marcus nodded. "I understand. Alina, if something goes wrong and I don't survive this, I want you to know that I chose this freely. David died trying to build bridges between our species. This feels like continuing his work." Elena's hands hovered over the activation controls. Around them, every doctor in the medical center watched silently. The success or failure of the next 30 minutes would determine the fate of two civilizations. Activating neural interface in 3.2.1. The devices flared with brilliant light, and Marcus Chen's consciousness reached across the void between species to touch the mind of an alien queen drowning in human grief. The most dangerous medical procedure in galactic history had begun. The moment the neural interface activated, Marcus felt like he was falling through space. Colors flashed around him, blues and silvers and golds that had no names in human language, and suddenly he was not alone in his own mind. "Who are you?" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking without words directly into his thoughts. "I am Marcus Chen," he replied, trying to stay calm. "I am here to help you, Your Majesty." The queen's consciousness was vast and ancient, like standing in an ocean of starlight. Marcus could feel her confusion and pain washing over him in waves. Her mind was beautiful but wounded, trying to process emotions that had never been designed. "To understand, you're David's brother," the queen's voice said, and Marcus felt her recognition like warm sunlight. "He spoke of you often. He said you help people who are in pain." "Yes," Marcus replied. "And you are in great pain right now. Your body is dying because your mind doesn't know how to carry the grief you feel." Marcus began to understand what Alina had meant about the queen's powerful consciousness. Her thoughts moved like lightning, processing thousands of ideas every second. But when it came to emotions, especially grief, her mind was like a child trying to lift a mountain. "I loved him," the queen said simply. "David taught me what love means. But when he died, something broke inside me. The feeling is too big. It hurts too much." Marcus felt the queen's love for his brother, and it was beautiful and terrible at the same time. She had loved David with the intensity of someone experiencing love for the first time, with no barriers or protection. When he died, that pure love had nowhere to go except to destroy her from within. "I know," Marcus said gently, "but love doesn't have to be destructive. Let me show you how humans survive this kind of pain." Marcus began sharing his memories of grief. He showed the queen his own experiences of loss, patients he couldn't save, friends who died too young, the gradual acceptance that came with time. He let her feel how humans learn to carry sadness without being crushed by it. "You don't try to stop the pain," the queen said with wonder. "You let it flow through you like water." "Exactly," Marcus replied. "Grief is not the enemy. Fighting it makes it stronger. The secret is to feel it completely, then learn to transform it into something you can carry." Around them in the real world, Alina and the alien doctors watched the neural patterns on their screens. Both Marcus and the queen showed intense brain activity, but the chaotic patterns in the queen's mind were beginning to stabilize. "It's working," Alina whispered. "Look at her heart rhythm. It's It's becoming more regular. Inside the mental connection, Marcus guided the queen through the process of emotional healing. He showed her how humans honored their dead not by destroying themselves with grief, but by carrying love forward into the future. David would not want you to die from loving him, Marcus explained. He would want you to live and remember the joy he brought to your life. But how? The queen asked. The pain is so strong. Every time I think of him, my hearts feel like they are breaking. Marcus showed her one of the most important lessons he had learned as a grief counselor. The goal is not to forget David or to stop missing him. The goal is to learn to remember him with gratitude instead of only with pain. Slowly, carefully, Marcus helped the queen's mind create new neural pathways. Instead of letting her love for David become a destructive force, he taught her to redirect that energy into positive memories and hopes for the future. Think about what David would want for your people in mind, Marcus suggested. He died trying to build peace between our species. You can honor his memory by continuing that work. The queen's consciousness began to change. Marcus could feel her brilliant mind adapting his emotional techniques to her own Zephyrian biology. She was not becoming human, she was becoming something new, a bridge between human emotional depth and Zephyrian logical strength. I understand now, the queen said. Love is not something to possess or to be destroyed by. Love is something to share and to build upon. In the medical center, the queen's 3 hearts suddenly began beating in perfect harmony for the first time in weeks. Her brain patterns showed a new stability that amazed the watching doctors. Her vital signs are improving rapidly, Dr. Kethmori announced. Whatever's happening in there, it's working. But Marcus was beginning to feel the strain of the connection. The queen's powerful mind was overwhelming, and he could feel his own identity starting to blur around the edges. He needed to finish the healing process quickly before he lost himself completely. Your Majesty, he said urgently, I need to disconnect soon. But first you must promise me something. You must use what you've learned to help both our species understand each other better. I promise, the queen replied. Marcus Chen, you have given me a gift beyond measure. You have taught me how to survive love. Marcus felt the queen's consciousness pulling back, becoming separate from his own again. The neural interface began to dim as Alina carefully reduced the connection strength. Thank you, the queen said as their minds separated. I'll carry your brother's memory with honor, and I will carry the wisdom you have shared with me forever. The neural interface powered down completely. Marcus slumped forward in his chair, exhausted but alive. Around him, the medical center erupted in excited voices as the queen's vital signs continued to improve. Alina quickly checked Marcus's condition. His pulse was rapid but strong, and his brain patterns showed normal human activity. Marcus, can you hear me? How do you feel? Marcus looked up at her with tired but peaceful eyes. I feel like I just had the most important conversation of my life, he said softly. Is she going to be okay? Before Alina could answer, they heard a sound from the crystal chamber. Queen Zerthala was stirring. Her silver eyes opened slowly, and she looked around the medical center with clear, intelligent awareness.
Dr. Kethmori?
The queen said, her voice weak but steady. How long have I been unconscious? The alien doctor rushed to her side, his skin bright with relief. Your Majesty, you have been unconscious for 18 hours, we thought. We feared we might lose you. The queen sat up slowly in the crystal chamber. Her movements were careful, but strong. I am not lost, she said. I am found. For the first time in my life, I understand what it means to feel and to heal. She looked across the room at Marcus, who was still sitting in his chair by the neural interface. Marcus Chen, she said formally. You have saved not only my life, but the future of both our peoples. I am in your debt. Marcus stood up slowly and walked to the queen's chamber. Your Majesty, you owe me nothing, only did what my brother would have wanted. The queen smiled, and Alina noticed that her expression was different now. More human somehow, but still distinctly Zephyrian. She had become something new, a perfect bridge between two species. Dr. Vasquez, the queen said. Turning to Alina, your courage and brilliance made this healing possible. You have invented a new form of medicine that could help countless beings across the galaxy. Alina felt tears in her eyes. Her Majesty, this was a team effort, and it was an honor to help save you. The queen looked around at all the doctors, who had worked to save her life. Today we have learned something extraordinary. Love and grief are not weaknesses to be avoided. They are strengths to be shared and understood. She stood up in the crystal chamber, her 3 hearts beating strongly and in perfect rhythm. I hereby establish a new medical exchange program between our peoples. We will study consciousness itself, learning how different species can share emotions and healing across the stars. Elena realized that the queen was right. What they had accomplished was bigger than saving one life. They had opened a door between minds that had never been opened before. Marcus smiled as he watched the queen address her people and the human doctors. The grief counselor in him recognized something beautiful. The queen had learned not just to survive her pain, but to transform it into hope for the future. The alien queen had suffered a heart attack from learning to love like a human. But in healing her, Marcus and Alina had discovered something that would change both civilizations. Forever, love, it turned out, was not just humanity's greatest strength, it was a gift that could be shared across the stars.